Hey, blah, 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 gaga poo poo.
What's going
What
on?
movie? What movie?
Bruce Almighty.
Yeah. I was watching that the other day.
Yeah, me too, funny enough. A week ago.
I was watching it Thanksgiving.
True. Maybe that's why I was watching it too. I'm not sure. Actually.
That's the way the cookie crumbles.
Right? It was like, it hit me so much realer, like, watching it again. Like, the moment when he realized he had been betrayed and Evan got the promotion. Like, I love Jim Carrey. I really
Jim
do.
Carrey is
He's such an
the
amazing
best.
actor.
Like,
I love him.
His physicality.
His reaction was just so good.
Just because his physicality, his movement, his
And
body
back
language.
to you, Bruce.
Like,
Bruce.
I'm trying to bring it out.
Oh, that face. His face is just like perfect in that scene.
Whoops.
And then he ends it with, and that's the way the cookie crumbles. He said, the betrayal.
That movie is so good. Is that
So
is that over 20 years old yet?
Is it? Please, can it be? Titan. I swear. He's
Yeah.
literally like, he loves me so much more as soon as I'm recording something. Like, so much more. Like, I don't understand. And then it's the worst because I keep trying to point him away and I got barbecue fingers.
Ah.
So he keeps trying
So
to
he's
flick
like,
them.
he's like, yeah. Huh?
Every time I'm like, go that way, he's like, you want me to lick your fingers? Yeah.
No, it's not over 20 years old. It came out 2003. Close.
Damn it.
Close, but not quite.
I was at like 5 years.
Yeah. So not that close. Close, but not that close. Anyway, let's start this podcast. Hey, what's up, guys? English Dave here. Welcome to another episode of Back to the Feature, presented by the Nerdy Bunch, where we talk about movies from the past, in the present, as long as they're 20 years or older. This week, we're continuing our Christmas, non-Christmas movie series. Raven, what's up, Raven?
What up, Dave?
Let's talk about Die Hard. This came out originally in theaters July 20th, 1988. Directed by John McTiernan. Raven, we spoke about one of his movies. Was I talking with you about it, or was that Carlos?
Maybe. He did a lot of amazing
Predator.
movies.
Predator.
No, you weren't talking to me about it.
Oh, that was with Carlos. Yes, Predator. He did
Agreed.
Predator. John McTiernan. I think this was just after they did Predator. And this was actually based on a book by Roderick Thorpe, a 1979 novel. It was actually a sequel novel called Nothing Lasts Forever, which was actually a follow-up novel to a book called The Detective.
Boom, that's what he did, Dave. Last Action Hero.
Oh, yes. But that was
Directed
later,
a
right?
movie, man.
Yeah.
I only watched that movie because of you. Like, I probably would have never seen that
Last
movie
Action
in my
Hero.
life.
Ooh.
I probably.
Man.
Oh, that is a Back to the Feature.
When does that happen? Does that happen Christmas time?
Back to the director.
I wonder. He also did, John McTiernan did Die Hard 1. Did he do Die Hard 2? He did Die Hard with a Vengeance.
I love Die Hard with a
He did
Vengeance. I don't
Hunt for
care.
Red October.
Huh?
He did Hunt for Red October. which
Who?
is-
See, I was speaking earlier with Paris about Die Hard 2. Do you remember Die Hard 2 at all?
Yes, it's in fact, we can do that next because that's a Christmas movie
remember.
as well. It's at an airport.
Oh.
Yeah, the whole thing takes place in the airport. Ooh, maybe that's what we should do next week then. There you go. Boom. We have our next week's movie,
Maybe.
Die Hard 2. 'Cause that's also a Christmas movie. And it's set around Christmas time. And so it works. I think it's the only other Die Hard that happens at Christmas. Yeah, because I don't think the others happen.
It's the only other good one. Well, no, never mind. Die Hard with a Vengeance is still my favorite.
Die Hard with
But I don't
Vengeance
know.
is-
Now
Die
after
with
seeing
Vengeance-
Die Hard 1, I'm like, wow.
The thing is, Die Hard with Vengeance is just fun.
It's an
But
amazing movie.
but the thing is, Die Hard with a Vengeance began the ridiculous. Like, it went to 11. Like, it's when, because that's if you trace the Die Hard legacy from then on, it's just, they just said, okay, fuck it.
After that, it was ridiculous.
He
it got over the
started
top.
surfing a fucking plane. Like, he literally surfed
True.
a plane. Like a fighter jet.
He served a
Like,
flame. What was that, 4?
Yeah, I think it was 4 or 5. I can't remember.
4 was bad, but like 5 was terrible. 5 was terrible. Why did that happen?
I don't know.
Why?
I don't
5
know.
was bad.
Because, well, again, I think after watching 1 again, you realize that a lot of what made 1 good was left behind. even the fun ones like 3.
Exactly. I was actually speaking about this earlier, how it's crazy because I realized in doing these Back to the Futures that some of the movies that we go back and watch, a lot of movies that we go back and watch, it's like, oh, wow, the original version of this movie was amazing. Whether I saw the first one or not, like, I feel like I never really saw certain movies, with the mindset that I have now. I saw it when I was way younger, and a lot of things I didn't understand the context. So for that, I didn't understand a lot of overall themes of a lot of movies we've seen. And I realized in watching this movie, same as how I felt when we rewatched Halloween, where you realize how many movies have been inspired by or made an homage to, but just completely missed it. If you think about how many action films came after Die Hard that were extremely similar movies that just sucked. In Honest Trailer, they actually listed all of them, which is pretty fun. But
Die Hard on the boat. Die Hard on the
Hard
bus.
on a boat.
Die Hard
on
on
a
another
bus.
boat.
Funny enough, I love Speed, man. I don't care. It's amazing. It's one of the best, worst movies ever. I played it at my bar one time, and we all played a drinking game to it.
I mean, some people that worked on Die Hard worked on Speed.
I mean, it seems like it.
Yeah, there is.
Definitely the effects crew, for sure. Maybe the stuntman.
But that's the thing. I mean, Die Hard is one of those movies that, if you look at it historically, right, it came at a weird point where it came after the machismo of Schwarzenegger, Stallone, all those guys, and a lot of people didn't know that. We look at Bruce Willis as part of that group of action guys of the 80s. But at the time, he wasn't with them. He was a TV guy in a comedy.
It's funny that he became that guy and, like, as he got older.
Yeah, right? As he got older, people
he got older and became a badass. Like, once he actually went bald and his hair was white, and his beard is white, then it's like, Bruce Willis, badass.
Yeah,
which is crazy. It's like in reverse, where all the other guys were like badass when they were young. But that's like, it's the same as like when people peak in high school,
This is true.
That's what happened to all
This is
those
very
80s,
true.
like roided up dudes. But Bruce Willis was one of the only guys still doing it.
Right? But he doesn't care as much, I feel, right now. Like
He doesn't care. I don't think he's ever cared.
But I feel like in Die Hard
Bruce
he
Willis
cared.
is a very similar guy in most movies.
But I feel like in the first Die Hard he cared.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
for sure.
I feel like that's a movie. Like he really sold the character, and
He did.
like, and it's still part. Actually, there's a good movie of his I love called The Hudson Hawk. I think that's another one where he really cared as well. But let's talk about our history with the film. You're talking about how this is one of the first times you've watched it with an analytical eye. We both share that fact, but you've seen it before. So, what is your history, and what was this film to you before seeing it again recently?
I mean, I feel like when I think Die Hard, I've always thought badass, but never really knew exactly what. I feel like I've always remembered the scenes from the movie. And in rewatching it this time, I had watched the first half of the movie. And I kind of realized that, like, I may have just never seen a whole portion of the movie in my life. Like, there's significant parts of the movie that I've just never seen. But I remember watching a lot of the more iconic scenes. We've all seen Hans Gruber's death millions of times. Certain explosion scenes, the scene on the roof.
Yippee-ki-yay,
Certain things that I've
motherfucker.
always... Yeah, exactly. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. A lot of the one-liners, obviously. But this is one of those movies that I feel was always on. It was always on TV.
True.
But because it was always on TV, that's why I've only seen parts, Because there was commercial breaks, and as a kid, a commercial break, 2 minutes is like your whole life. So you like...
And then your
leave
parents
the
will
room
send you to
and
the
don't come back
kitchen.
for 30 minutes.
Parents will your parents will send you to the kitchen to go get
Exactly.
something.
So you're missing significant parts of this movie every time it takes a commercial break, or it would take like 3 hours to watch a movie. Midway through, you just stop
You couldn't pause it.
Yeah, exactly. You couldn't pause it. It was just like forced upon you. So I saw a lot of scenes and never really glued it together. I never even knew there was a story until watching it this time. I thought it was just scenes.
Yeah.
Scenes of badassness.
I've seen the movie a lot of times, and it's a movie that I've always enjoyed. But again, I never really watched it with an analytical eye for the story. It's just something I enjoyed as an action film. That just the cool, the guns, the explosions, and it's something that I would watch just for the fun of watching it over Christmas as an action film. And it really wasn't until yesterday where I really looked at it from an analytical eye. Just little things like "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker!" Like I love that line, but then really when
you say it all the time.
I love it,
like in regular conversation.
or there's a line with the sleazy guy, that's always taking cocaine. He's like, "Show him the watch," like a line like that. I love that line. Show him the watch. But that "show him the watch" is such a significant
show him
thing.
The watch.
Yes.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Show him the watch was crazy. Seeing it the second time.
Right. Like, oh my God.
Not even the second time. I'm gonna call it watching it actually.
Yes.
It was like realizing, because in the beginning I was like, stupid coked up dude.
Right.
But I didn't think nothing of it. And then later, when he was grabbing her arm, and then the watch popped, and I was like, oh, metaphor.
All right. He's like, oh, okay. Love it. Oh, this movie does exposition so fantastic.
Exposition, symbolism.
Every movie needs exposition. That's the thing you need. You need
even the part, boom, since we're on favorite scenes, also one of my favorite scenes was, I will also say, Carl Winslow killed it in this movie.
Right?
Damn it, Carl Winslow.
Right?
It might be my favorite Carl Winslow role, to the point where I almost want to know this guy's name and start calling Carl Winslow whoever this actor's name is.
He is
whoever
the
he
best
plays in this
wingman.
movie. Start calling him that guy.
The best
what was
wingman
his name in this movie?
Al.
Was it Al? Al Horford or something? What was it? Did I make that up?
No, it was Al. Yeah, it was Al.
I was making up whole names.
I
feel like there was like a whole name.
You should have a cast list.
Is it bad that I'm looking at IMDb like expecting it to say
Al Powell.
Al and then dash Carl Winslow? To me, he has no name.
His name is Reginald Vell Johnson. Is his real name?
Yeah, it is.
Sergeant Al Powell.
What? Al Powell.
Yeah.
That's a weird name.
He is the best wingman in any movie ever.
Ever. He's the man. What a good friend.
Such a good friend. The support. He's your hype man. He's like, you know what? I loved him. That's a good thing about this movie is every character is interesting.
Yeah.
Even the
wife is very interesting.
Even the side characters. Right?
Yeah. I even thought the boss,
Hans.
he seemed like a cool boss. No. The other boss that died.
The Japanese. Yeah, right? The Japanese.
He's pretty damn interesting.
Oh, man. See, this is what I say about exposition, right? This movie. This movie does a good job of exposition in the way that we get minimal time with every character, but we know so much about them, or we know enough about them that we kind of connect with them. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you see the boss when he walks in and he sees clearly seeing the other guy taking coke. He knows what the guy is like.
It's so funny.
He's
like, the funny thing about that is people literally do that when they do coke, but it's like, that's very obvious, because when in any other situation in life do you ever do that to your nose?
Seriously.
Do you ever wipe your nose 8 times just to stand up? It makes no sense.
No, he's like, when you look at the movie from another perspective, he's one of the only victims in the story, right? In terms of he's the only true, the other guy gets killed, but he's just being a dick and he puts himself in the situation to get killed.
Who?
The coke guy. What's his name? Yeah. So he gets killed, but the only other person that gets killed that innocent is the boss. Right?
Yeah.
Because it's his building. They came to steal his stuff and they killed him for it.
True.
Things like that.
And no one else.
No, and nobody else.
You couldn't just take my stuff?
So but that's what I love about the movie. It became known as a great action film without having a lot of just gratuitous killing.
Yeah.
Right? You expect it to be it doesn't
because that's the thing. I went to rewatch it remembering how fucking ridiculous Live Free or Die Hard was. Or what was it? Was that the last one?
No, the last one was
Where's
it
the one
Moscow with the
dude?
Sun.
The Sun.
Yeah, I forget what
A
it's
Good
called
Day
now.
to Die Hard?
Yeah, A Good Day to Die Hard.
No, I don't. I think that's with the daughter.
What was it? I don't want to
There
look it
was
up.
some
I don't want
bad
to look it
ones.
up.
Anyway.
I don't want to look it up.
I don't want it on my computer.
I don't want to look it up.
But yeah, regardless, I do feel like there was a lot of really good things in this film that, you know, like I was saying earlier, that rewatched the movie because I thought it was going to be the same fight style as we saw in the last couple ones, because apparently, you know, John McClane became a ninja after
Right. He's like Captain America.
the first and second movie. Apparently he took some super soldier serum in the last couple of movies, because the older he gets, the more unstoppable and indestructible he becomes somehow. But regardless, rewatching it, I just think, you know, there was a lot of things that I really enjoyed about the movie. You know, I didn't realize the underlying story of, you know, a guy trying to save his marriage. I definitely didn't understand the reasons as to why they split. I used to not necessarily think that the wife was stupid, but, you know, you kind of always, you know, you side with the protagonist of the film, or you side with the main character in the film. And I felt like, you know, I was always rooting for John, kind of feeling like, I can't believe she'd leave him. That's messed up. How you just going to take the kids and leave and move to the West Coast? But rewatching it now, I feel like everybody's, I guess, everybody's goal or everybody's main objective was understandable. Every character.
Every character.
And that's rare in any film, especially an action film.
Yes.
And an 80s action film at that.
Yes. This has a very tight script. You know, everything happens with purpose. Every character has meaning, even down to like the henchman. Right? Like
Yeah.
Hans becomes John's intellectual nemesis, but the other henchman becomes his physical nemesis because John kills his brother, and then writes "Ho ho ho! I have a machine gun." Like makes you know, like, and that triggers him, and then like I love that because you see his story, the henchman. They like Hans has a plan. Like
It's crazy because I almost felt bad for them.
right, that's what I'm saying.
Because I was like,
you get it.
I was like, but you killed his brother.
You
man.
killed his brother. He's mad now, but like
But,
I
like,
love that.
You forget about that in other movies now. In a lot of action movies now, I think armies or henchmen become what do you call them?
Just
Indispensable,
fodder.
indestructible.
Yeah, they're just indispensable fodder in the background.
Yeah, and they kind of just, you know, they're just here. They're neither here nor there. They're there to add cool effects and
Yeah, yeah.
you know, show fun stunts, but you don't really care about them. You don't have the time to grow to like them as a character or to really care at all. You know, and in movies we watch now, they'll shoot and murder like 20 people in one scene. You know, a guy will kick a door in and kill everyone in a house.
Right.
And you don't really feel that somehow. But watching this movie, just seeing that fight scene, you know, between, did he have a name? The blonde guy?
It was Carl.
Okay, so when he was fighting Carl, you know, you felt that fight and you understood, you know, the thoughts behind it. Even though Carl wasn't the main boss, you know, he was like the second to main boss. He was the physical nemesis. Which I loved.
And I love we mentioned about the fights. The fights felt raw,
It felt brutal.
right?
I found
but
myself
not-
kind of like looking away a little, and there was nothing really graphic about
But that's
it.
the thing. It was raw, but not graphic. But felt real.
Yeah,
You know, but it didn't make. So every time John won, you know it was a struggle. He wasn't a superhero. Like
No.
shit, he was lucky. The way he kills Carl's brother is luck. They fall down the stairs, and the brother breaks the neck.
yep.
Just he dies. So it's like half the time
Both
it's luck.
ways.
Even when he kills Carl, he's just struggling. He happens to have the chain. He ties around his neck. So like, John wins his fights more because he's resourceful, not because he's a superhero.
Exactly, not at all.
And I think future movies forgot that. Because he would do things and be like, okay, I have no idea if this is gonna work. Like when he's tying the hose around his waist to jump down. He's like, John, what are you doing, man? What are you doing?
And he's talking to himself. I swear I'll never come on top of a big building ever again.
And that's the thing they use, and that's what I meant earlier when I said this is when Bruce Willis cared, you know, because any other actor talking to themselves throughout the entire film as exposition would seem corny in an action film.
True.
You know, like
True. You don't even think about it.
no,
You just go, yeah,
you don't.
man.
You
Because I think also in that moment we'd all be talking to ourselves.
right?
And it's
It makes
understandable.
sense. But then it's also
He's
estab-
also somewhere where he's his only friend.
yes.
You know,
Well,
you're in LA.
you made a good
and
point.
Like he said, he was invited to a party by an accident.
You make a good point because the movie opens up wisely and smartly, him arriving in LA and he's just like, "Ugh, LA, you know, like, and then
Exactly, and it's the truth. There's a New Yorker in LA, like,
you instantly
and
pulled
I love
into
it.
that.
Like when the guy goes to hug him, he's like
You
moves out the way.
Exactly.
New Yorkers aren't used to that. They don't want to be touched.
No, and for me, and this is what I meant earlier when I brought up the fact that it's a movie that came at a weird time, where it was after the action. It was after the action films of the time, but then movies that came afterwards didn't take too much from it, because this movie was originally made for Schwarzenegger, Stallone, all those guys. They all turned it down, and then Bruce Willis, coming from TV, he got the role, and this movie almost kind of became an anti-typical action film for its time, because he was just the regular guy. The bad guys were the European, tough-looking, blonde hair, you know, action guy stereotypes. They were the archetypes, the bad guys. He wasn't the archetype of the time.
I also loved all the really well written black characters too.
Right?
They weren't stereotypical.
Right?
You know, I was like, hell yeah, black
And
police
none
officer.
of them died.
Hell yeah, black limo driver. Hell yeah, black bank hacker, robber, person thing. Whatever you are. You seem real smart, bro.
Do you know what? A cool movie, future movie, should be him coming back as a villain. Because he got arrested. He's one of the only ones that survives in the bad guy's crew.
Wow.
I'm just saying. That'd be so
Good.
dope.
See? What an anti-movie.
Right?
All the black people lived.
Right? I loved it.
Why didn't we take that into the 90s?
Let's talk about John's vulnerability, and I think that's something that actually adds to his strength, where the movie opens up with us seeing him scared of flying. And then instantly in that, I love that scene with that shot, because we see his hands gripping the seat, but then we see the ring on his finger, and that tells you, oh, he's married. And then when the guy asks him, oh, your first time flying, and he's like, oh, I hate traveling. I know I make this trip. I do this trip a lot. I hate going. It instantly tells you, oh, he's not with his wife. You know, exposition without exposition.
Exactly.
And then the guy tells him about the foot thing, and he's like, that's stupid. And as the audience, you're like, what the fuck was that all about? And then later on, we understand, because he takes his shoe off, and it leads to the whole thing where he spends the entire movie without shoes because of what this guy told him at the beginning. So everything that happens in the movie happens with purpose, right?
Exactly.
Earlier on, when he's talking to his wife on the phone, after she gets off the phone call, she flips the picture frame down. And then when Hans goes into the room, he doesn't see the picture frame, so he doesn't connect. So you're like, oh shit, that makes sense. You know, or like...
And plus her last name.
Exactly.
But then also,
like the last
in the
name.
beginning, you realize that her last name isn't that. You're like, ooh, it hurts. You feel for John.
Yes, you do. But it saved her later, because Hans would have found out, because it kept her separate, and I love that. And it's just little things like that I love about the movie. You know, the movie. Let's talk about the directing. We haven't gone into that yet.
I will say, wow, the directing is so good.
I think it's done so well and with purpose.
Because I think every actor in that movie actually killed it.
Yes.
You know, there's nobody, even the cokehead. I thought he was great at being a cokehead. If you've ever actually been around somebody on a lot of coke, it's pretty spot on. I was like,
there's a story about that. The actor, I think his name is, Hart Buckner. He at the time, apparently, I don't know this, but he at the time wasn't used to making movies like that. Characters like that, sorry. He was actually hired to be that kind of kind of like businessman, but that kind of like the suave businessman. You know, the smooth talking kind of business, kind of Wall Street kind of.
He was a Wall Street kind of dude.
Yeah.
But 90s Wall Street guy, well, late 80s.
But he was supposed to be more the smooth guy, not the corny guy. He was supposed to be like smooth talking, like charming. That's what he was hired for, and that's what the character was written as. But then when it came to shooting, he played up the character more, like the cook. He added that himself. The director hated it. Hated it. They was like, you can't do that. You can't do that. I want you to be more like smooth and likable character, where you understand. Because like John is supposed to be the asshole, and this guy's supposed to be smooth to counter John. So you understand,
Yeah.
okay, this is why this should be a threat to John because he's a smooth guy and he's kind of cool, you know. And he was like, but the next day when the producers saw the dailies, the producers loved it and thought it was hilarious. So the director's like, all right, you know, fuck it, do it. And the movie, and that's the thing, the movie's full of that, like happy accidents. He wasn't written like that, but he was like, you know, because
Yeah.
the actor, he played a lot of smooth talking guys in previous movies and stuff and TV stuff. So he wanted to do something different. He was like, I don't want to do this character anymore. Let me do something. Just take that stereotypical guy and just enhance it. Yeah, what's up, Hans
So
Bube,
ridiculous.
Bube.
But I also loved it. Like, and even in the scene where he's about to die, you're like, oh shit.
I know, right?
And you feel for him because you're like, oh, you're like, Hans is gonna kill him.
Because
now.
he was kind of smart
Hans
by
gonna kill him.
saying, "Oh, John's his friend, not that I know his wife." So
But it was
I
crazy
respected them for
because-
that.
But that's the worst thing about it, which also
But-
plays to the great directing.
So good.
Because in that moment, you go from, I hate this guy, he's an asshole,
Yep.
he sold him out, to realizing, no, the guy actually is trying to help everyone.
In his stupid
Like,
way.
because he's not, in a very dumb way.
Yes, it's
he's
a dumb
trying
way.
to actually look out for everyone, because technically he's the only one taking a rap, and the only one that he put under the bus
Was him.
is John, and he
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
And he, like, because I thought he was going to put the wife at risk.
Yes.
And give away everything, which I thought, man, you're a fucking asshole.
Yes,
When
yes.
I realized that he was actually trying to keep it between them, I was like, aw, he's actually not so bad. He's a respectable guy. Oh, shit, he's going to die, man.
Yep. Yep.
Like, you didn't even get to enjoy it, you know? But as soon as you do actually care for him,
And-
that's when he gets shot. So because of that, I feel like that also plays into great directing, because only great directing and great acting to follow it gives you that reaction with a character that has so little screen time.
Yes, and even that moment, I love that moment because again, watching it with an analytical eye, you notice things like whenever they're talking through the radio, because you know Hans and John, it's one of those rare movies where the villain and hero rarely meet, right? But they talk, they interact with each other a lot through the radio, and every time, you know, looking at it from a filmmaker's eye, how it's framed, like they're framed on left screen or right screen, so that you know that they're as if they're talking to each other in the same space. Even if they're not together, they're talking to each other as if, from our point of view as the audience, we kind of connect them together, and it's very smartly done and
Exactly.
edited really
I also
well.
say that also plays into the cinematography.
Oh, the
which I would
cinematography
say
is beautiful.
was amazing. It's fantastic. And man, that scene where he has the hose wrapped around his stomach
Yeah,
and is pulling him off the building, like that POV shot was so good. You know, good POV is rare, man, and that
It's
was
shot-
just a perfect POV moment, shot so well. Because it looks like he's going up almost. You know,
Yeah.
it looks
Yeah,
angled
yeah,
like
yeah.
he's going up almost like a roller coaster.
Mm.
You know, it looks like almost like that tick, 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 tick moment right before the big first drop of a roller coaster. And you almost feel it, like
Yeah.
the anticipation of him slowly going up to roll out. And I thought that was just amazing, like the way that they angled the camera and also just the thought process behind it. You could honestly tell that the director and the cinematographer and I guess editor, they all really read into this script, you know, and you can tell from everything from, you know, what happens in terms of the actions of the actors, you know, the way that the scene is composed, the color composition of the scene, you know, and also angles were a huge thing in this movie.
Oh,
You
my
know,
goodness.
There were a lot of,
Dutch.
you know, there's hero shots, there's Dutch angles, you know. It was just done so well, and I felt like they did a great job of perspective through visual.
But then
also.
they used, it's one of those films where you can really tell the cinematographer and the director really work together to tell the story.
Exactly.
Because, you know, they do little things like in establishing shots where it doesn't feel like an establishing shot. So, because you're getting story information, but the camera's panning in a way to give you geographical information.
Exactly.
Right? Like, there's a scene where John walks past and he sees the picture with the boobs on it. And he looks at it and you're like, haha, boobs. But then when he runs by later, you're like, oh, I know this place because it had the boobs there. So you
Yeah,
automatically know
exactly.
geography. So they
Exactly,
teach
and
you
that's really, it's so well done.
so well done. Or little things like when John first walks in and he looks at the cameras, like, why is the camera looking at me? You're like, yeah, why is the camera looking at you? Later on, we see, oh, the thieves use those cameras and we see what the cameras see. You know, like, so, or like we're constantly told, oh yeah, you know, they're the only ones here in the building. They're renovating everywhere else. And then we see the renovated space where John is hiding. And so it's like everything's there for a purpose. You know, like, or
Exactly.
you think of things like, why doesn't he ever try one of the dead guy's shoes? Well, he does that. It's too small. You know, like so like, the movie does a good job of that, and that becomes a thing in the entire film where he doesn't have shoes, so it becomes a hindrance, and then the bad guy finds that out and it's like, shoot all the glass. So it's
Yeah,
it's a continuous story plot device, you know, and I love that about the film.
It's crazy, and I also love that they stayed aware of it. I've
Yes.
seen a lot of movies where the main actor, whoever, there will be broken glass, their foot gets cut up, or they'll break a leg in one scene, or you'll watch them get, you know, their foot practically amputated, or their leg is hanging in the opposite direction.
No, you literally
And
mean
then
amputated.
they'll kick, huh?
No, I think you're talking about the Rock's movie.
Seriously. But then that same person will get up and roundhouse kick another person with that same
or
foot.
jump
And it's like,
jump from a crane to a skyscraper.
from a crane. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like, bro, relax. Like, at the end of the day,
Die
y'all
Hard
gotta
in a
relax.
bigger
Like,
building.
I'm sorry, but that's not a thing.
No.
And I love that in this movie, every fight scene, every interaction, you're very much aware of every cut, every bruise, every scar, the fatigue, you know, everything that this regular man, John McClane, this regular cop, you know, with only cop training, was able to do, you know, and I love that about it. I love that they they created this story and they grounded themselves within their world and then got crazy within the confines
Yes.
of the world that they created.
And it's not even that crazy because, again, with John, and that's what I mean by he was a different type of action hero, and no one really did that afterwards. Because when you look at the film, right, when the first thing that happens, when it happens, he sees the exit sign. He could have left, but he stays, right? But then the first thing he does is he doesn't stay to save the day and be the hero. No, he stays so that he can call the police and give them information. Right?
Exactly.
He tries to signal because other
He only wanted them to do their job.
yes, that's all he wanted. He didn't
That's
want
all
to be
he
the
wanted
guy.
the whole time was for everyone to do their job. Like, he was just like, all right, you are the cops. That's fine. I called you.
Right?
All I'm asking for you to do is cooperate with me.
No shit, lady. Does it sound like
But
I'm ordering a
then-
pizza?
Literally. But then the detective, when he gets there, spends the whole time arguing with John, trying to find a way to stop John. You know, and it's just so typical. But I also loved that. I loved
Yes.
how realistic that also was.
Yes.
The cops. you know?
Because how we don't know who that guy is.
Yeah, and I also like that for the most part we cared about the lives of the cops.
Yeah.
You know, think about how many movies you've seen where, you know, a situation like that'll happen. They'll shoot up 300, you know, officers or whatever, or the army, whatever. They'll
You
throw
don't give a shit.
bombs, but you don't feel anything. You're like, all right,
No.
cool, keep it coming. You know, they blew up like one tank, and I was like,
Mm.
oh, those poor guys.
Let's talk about the late great Alan Rickman, Hans Gruber.
I could talk about the late great Alan Rickman forever, man. It's so
R.I.P..
crazy because every role that he's ever done, he does so well and so his way.
Hans
To
Gruber.
where like yeah, like Hans Gruber, I'm like, oh my god, Professor Snape, you know, or what's his name in Galaxy Quest? I love him in Galaxy Quest.
The robot.
No, not the robot in Galaxy Quest.
Oh,
When-
oh,
when he
Galaxy
has the,
Quest.
like,
Oh.
brain
Yeah.
on his head. I forget his
the
name.
Spock
in that.
type character.
But I love him in that movie. He's like so
I
sarcastic
shall
and
avenge you.
ridiculous. But I also love him in Hitchhiker's Guide to the
Yeah.
Galaxy. Like every role he's ever
This-
done, I love. And I had no idea that this was his first
Yep.
movie ever.
This was his
Like,
very
what
first
a way
role.
to go.
Right? What a way to start off. He had a
Hell
great
yeah,
career.
Alan Rickman.
Sadly, died too soon. I think he
real.
would go down the legacy, your first film, as one of the greatest cinematic villains of all time, who had the greatest plan. I love his plan is actually
It's
fantastic.
actually an awesome plan.
like
Like when it all
Actually-
works out in the end, you're like, huh.
so you're not terrorists, right? Like it's so smart because it uses
It
again
ends and you're just kind of like, yeah, well, all right,
The-
sure.
the plan works on multiple levels because it works on one level as a storytelling device that's commentary for action films at the time. Right? Action films are always like, oh, the terrorist. But the character as well is also making fun of how Americans would react to terrorists.
Exactly.
And plays that against them. I knew that they were going to turn off the power. We want you to do that. I want you to send this. I want you to assume that I'm a terrorist so that you're going to treat me as a terrorist so that you can put your defenses down on the things I actually want to steal. That's a genius plan.
Exactly. I was like, wow.
Like, I
was legitimately impressed.
No.
I was like, good for you, Hans.
Good for you, Hans. Like,
if he would have ended up pulling it off with killing no one, which I think he actually wanted,
thing is,
then it would have been a perfect plan.
If John wasn't there, nobody would have died.
True.
Wait, does
right?
Mr. Knuckle... Wait. The boss.
The boss would have died anyway, probably.
Yes, the boss would have
John didn't
died.
get involved in that. The boss, that was his fault.
Yeah.
All he had to do was give up the codes.
Because
that's what the guy said. Because he was like, if I give you all the codes, it won't matter because they're just gonna change it anyway. And then the guy, the computer hacker guy, basically responded like, "Oh, then you have nothing to lose."
Yeah.
And the guy was basically like, "No." At the end of the day, and it's like, "Well, shit, bro, you may as well just tell them the codes if you change
This
it."
is true. But no, I think.
So technically, you wonder if that's his fault or not. One could argue.
One could argue. This is
all you
very
have to do
true.
is give up the codes, bro. They got the money anyway.
All right, let's give the codes. But I thought I love the moment where Hans tells him that he wants his brothers in these countries in prison to be released, and he's like, "Oh, I just read about them."
He said, "I read about them in the Times this morning. I was cracking up." He's like, "Who?"
I was like, "Who's that?" And I love
this is so good.
I love the back and forth between Hans and John. I think they play off really well because it's like a game of chess. They're all trying to figure out each other and trying to figure out, who are you? What do you want? And
it is. And the moment where they come face to face with Don't Know is so good.
It's so perfect.
It's so good because it's done so well. On all fronts. Literally every part of it was flawless. Like
so
the directing, the cinematography, the acting.
And what we see.
Every part of the scene is it's because it's all the build up and then this moment is finally happening, but the only people that know is the audience and the actual characters don't know.
Yes.
So you're just sitting there like, oh my god, why aren't you killing each other? And at first you're like, oh, he's gonna kill him, and then the fake accent, and you're like, oh no, he got him. You're like stressed out, like, John, don't trust it, man. Come on, John. You're like, John's too smart for that, man.
And I love the testing phase, the first test when John's like, oh, what's your name again? And then we cut to the board on the side showing the names.
I was like, no.
And then he says,
it's so good.
But then it shows, that scene's a great scene that shows the resourcefulness of both of the characters, right?
Exactly.
That they both can think on their feet quickly. They're both trying to outsmart each other, but then John's the one that ultimately gets one over on him by being like, let me test this guy first with the gun. And then, and I love that.
So good.
And that kind of shows how both villains and hero can kind of play off each other, right? But in a weird way, in another movie, Hans would be the hero. In terms of his archetype, his look. And then,
true. Like,
John looks like a henchman by the end.
That's the thing, too, that I was watching, cracking up. I was like, I love that. It's also one of the first films that show people, white collar kind of crime. Where you see a guy in a button down in a suit and he's the presumed bad guy. And, a guy in a dirty wife beater is a protagonist.
Yes.
That's rare.
Yes. Let's talk about that wife beater, man.
I love that wife beater.
It starts, apparently it's actually
iconic.
hanging some.
It's hanging in the
Smithsonian. Yeah.
In the Smithsonian, they put up
the movie.
John McClane's.
The movie does continuity fantastically well.
They do, because that damn wife beater goes through
because you see time spin.
Like,
I was reading somewhere where the opening shots of the movie, you see the sun setting slowly in the background and it's shot like that. So every time you see a different scene, the sun's lower. The next scene, the sun's lower until it sets. Little things like that, or just the trails of blood everywhere, so you know where John has been. The continuity is done so well, and that it's so fantastically well.
Whoever that AD script supervisor is, they killed it.
Right.
on it.
What do you think of the two Agent Johnson? No
Oh,
relation.
they were so perfect cliche.
They came in to be like, "Yep, we're gonna be the guys that get
FBI
killed."
agents. Basically, it's like, oh, y'all are gonna die in a bad way, aren't
Because
you?
you had to have two levels of asshole police. Because you had to have the boss police asshole guy who's always the teacher in every other film, that actor.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's not. He's annoying, but he's kind of right.
Well, I was gonna say, as soon as I saw the not the pirate, but the bad guy in the Goonies, I
Yes,
was like, oh
yes.
well, we know he's some type of douchebag.
Right.
I was like, Johnson's the perfect name.
There
Yes.
you go, Johnson and Johnson.
That's why they
Johnson.
named him Johnson and Johnson.
Johnson.
They're like, hey, a bunch of dicks. What are we gonna name him? I don't know. Name them both Johnson. All right.
Johnson. Okay. Do you know that the
Johnson and
the
Johnson.
fucking reporter guy I wanted him to die.
Oh, I did, and I also love the moment where John McClane's wife punched him in the face.
But he still should have died. That was not
What
enough.
was her name? Holly.
Yes,
When
Holly.
Holly punched the reporter in the face, I was like, good for you.
Let's talk about Holly's character. There's a lot of female empowerment in this movie.
I will say, Holly fucking killed it.
Right?
I actually love Holly. Can we talk
Right.
about how well written
Can we talk about
Holly
her?
was?
Yes.
And how Holly was empowered.
Yes.
And how Holly had it going on. She was getting her life. She got her life together.
She had a
She
good
was
job.
like, I don't need no man.
I got a
got
good
me
job.
a good job. I get to use my brain.
I can take care of my
I'm smart.
kids.
People respect me. You know?
My boss respects me.
My boss respects me. And so do all the other men that work for me.
And I'm in an industry
Except for my man at home, I'd leave too.
and I'm in an industry where at the
I was
time
like, John better check himself.
like at the time, you know, like working for a Japanese company like this was like the new thing. So she's like ahead of the
Exactly.
curve too. You know, in that
Exactly.
sense. Like
She was
what?
nuanced.
And she was the only one that was able to get under Hans' skin. When she was like,
Yup,
"Oh, after
she
all
was.
of that, you're just a common thief." I was like,
Got him.
and he was just like, he got angry. That's the one time you see him like actually get angry. I was like,
Yup.
yeah, got him.
It's like, tell him. Tell him. And I love her moment too of being like, John's still alive.
Yeah. And then,
He's the only one
you
that
know
can
what?
get someone that mad.
What I love about her as well is she's that ex-wife that even though there's things going between her and John, she doesn't shit on him. She knows
No,
him.
never.
Where she's like, you know, like she understands, okay, he's good at his job. He's good at what he does. I respect him for that. You know, like and I think that's what I like about her as well. She's not that person that's just like, oh, he did wrong by me, so I'm just gonna shit on everything he does.
Exactly.
You know, and I like
And
that.
she stood by him and
Yeah.
she helped.
Yeah.
She held him down.
Yeah, she's like, okay, this is not about me and you right now.
Like when the movie ended, I was like, I hope you two like stay together forever. And that's rare. You know, I feel like it's
Even though
rare
you know
to
that
see
they don't.
movie couples. Well, I know. Which is dumb. Them
Yeah.
other movies.
All right.
By the time that when did he lose his wife? What, 3? Or was it in 2?
I can't.
'Cause I feel like
can't
with
remember-
Avengers, he
I
didn't
remember.
have a wife
I don't
at
remember
all.
the narrative of 2 in terms of his personal story. I remember like the villain and stuff. So we have to watch that again. But by 3 though, he's definitely not with her because it opens up with
No,
him just
he's
in his
not.
car by himself. It's just like fuck it. They had the dumb SWAT team in this movie though.
Yeah.
Like really, he's gonna just drive
Wow,
up
was
there,
so stupid.
just taken
Like,
out.
so stupid. And then like the tank, I was like, this is getting very 80s. Just like, all of that stuff at first, I was like, this movie is ridiculous. Like if it wasn't for the amazing like wrap up last hour of the
Right.
film, I would have been like, nah, this is just like
Yeah.
every other
Stupid
ridiculous
Yeah,
action movie. But
like,
it was like, luckily, you know, all the foreshadowing paid off.
But it's funny because it's like, it was as if I excuse those moments because it's as if it's making fun of those movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's like
it feels almost like a
John,
satire.
because John, he isn't just run and gun. He plays it smart. The SWAT team was doing run and gun, and they just got taken out easily.
Exactly. He was making fun of them. He
Yeah.
was like, what are you doing?
It's just like, what are you doing? Like,
Exactly.
what are you guys doing? If he's smart about this, and John is very smart. I like what he does. Let's talk about the legacy of this film. We made jokes about it in the beginning, but it's very true. A lot of films became Die Hard here, Die Hard under this, Die Hard under that. This year alone, we got Skyscraper, which was Die Hard in a bigger building, and I was just like, really, The Rock. Dwayne.
People keep trying to argue with me to watch it because it's not that bad. What type of shit is that? How you gonna be like, watch Skyscraper? It's not as bad as people keep saying. Like, what type of, like, that's not.
Wait, who said that?
Couple people.
No.
I'm not gonna call them out.
Especially after watching Die Hard now, you can never watch that movie now. You just shit on it. Like, it's so bad. And again, because people look at the wrong things, and I think people just haven't watched this movie again. And there's some movies that get close, but people kind of look at, and even sequels to Die Hard forgot about Die Hard and what made John McClane. And he had to make the character relatable, as if, like, you know, we can kind of root for this person, but he's not a perfect guy. Other movies try and make the guy perfect and make you love him. We didn't open up loving John. He was just a guy.
No.
There.
No. I actually thought he was an asshole.
Yeah.
For leaving his wife when she was glowing up.
Right.
He left her on her glow up.
Like, why can't you move to LA, huh?
Yeah, you ain't doing shit.
You have to kind of, but that's the other thing about the film. I love it because he kind of deals with his own masculinity, right? It's one that rare film where you get two guys having an emotional moment.
Yeah.
Together, and with him and Al, when he's telling Al, like, I love the line where he says, "My wife, she's heard me say I love her, but she's never heard me say I'm sorry."
I was like, ooh.
And I was like, damn. And he's talking to this other guy, you know, in an action film.
Yeah, in an action film.
Like,
a guy who he doesn't know.
Right?
He's technically a stranger.
Like, having an emotional moment like that was so well done. But it's
like,
also about...
bromance grew over a police radio. Let's talk about that bromance.
Right?
Did we speak about Carl Winslow? Because I got to bring him up again.
No, we got to bring him up again.
Because I love Carl Winslow's story. Like, let's talk about his story.
Let's talk about his story, yes. Before we finish, let's talk about his story. Welcome to the party, pal.
You just had a regular chill-ass routine shift. You're not in the field like that. Yeah, what a way to meet a friend.
Right? And then he believed John because, again, he had instincts, right?
The whole time. He had instincts, but that's the thing. They're both cops, and that's what he said. He was like, I have a feeling he's a cop, just the way that he
talks and asks
the way
questions.
He talks. And his mannerisms and stuff he says, he's like, I feel like he's a cop. And the other dude is a complete dick. You know, that I hate that detective.
But you see, here's the thing with
you mess with the bull.
Here's the thing with Al.
You're gonna get the horns.
Here's the thing with Al, right? Is you get his instincts. You understand it also when you find out the story about him and the kid.
That I was like, ooh.
And so, but the thing is, when you get,
but I think that's what's amazing about his story. But I wonder if he killed the kid or if he just shot the kid.
I think he killed the kid.
Right?
Yeah, I think he killed. I think it's implied that he killed the kid. And I think when you think of his story in real life, you understand that, okay, since then he realized, I'm going to be more careful and smart with my decisions and my instincts. Mm-hmm. And then that leads to him trusting John. Because I feel like, because he's like, the Al before that situation would have also made a rash decision in terms of John and not believe John to be a good guy. But the Al after that incident is the Al that's like, no, let me put thought before I act. And my thought is telling me, my gut's telling me this guy is not what I think it is. Initially. Yep. And I love that. And that's what's great about the movie you mentioned earlier.
It's crazy because he talks about the whole how I'll never draw my gun on someone again.
Yes.
And then in the end of the day, he saves the day.
Yeah.
When he shoots terrorists.
Yeah.
When he shoots not terrorist, but the robber.
I love that moment because it's not needed, but it has just an extra level of story.
It just adds that extra, like, wow. Like, there really are no plot holes in this movie.
And then Al has his moment.
I think that's what I love is, like, there's no character plot holes in this movie. Everyone has a complete, beginning, middle, and end. And I love that. That every character has their arc and a good through-line story, I feel like the only person that probably didn't change at all is the reporter. But he got punched in the face. So I'm okay with that.
But, even the reporter, in a weird way, has his own little story.
He does.
Because it's almost like the Bruce Almighty we're talking about situation, where he has a competitor at the news place, and he's trying to kind of get a good news story so that he can succeed. Yeah,
exactly.
And he's kind of
stepping on people in a way.
Well, the only difference is, yes, he's willing to do anything, like an asshole. Doesn't he threaten to call the ICE, the equivalent of ICE at the time, on the housekeeper?
The thing is, though, I was like, that's fucked up. I had a moment of, like, I kind of wish that they would have also wrote it in if she would have just responded, like, bitch, I'm legal.
Right. Right.
Like not in those exact words, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? But in some type of way, like I got my papers, so what? I would have just loved that moment of like racist. You know what I'm saying?
Son of a bitch.
Because I was just like, how you know she don't have her papers?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What you mean? Why you just assume?
Mm-hmm.
That's messed up.
But again, the
But of the times, it was.
but also he's the sleazebag, right? So that's
But
playing into
yeah, I love
his
that it showed it.
character.
Like, granted, I love his
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah,
And
that's
I think that the line was necessary. I'm just saying I would have loved it
yeah.
as audience just to have like a response from her as like, so, you know what I'm saying? Like just getting that like, and what are they gonna do? You know, like
Right.
so, I'm allowed to be here. What?
I think that's it. I think
Yeah, I think it was just a great movie all around.
It's a-
like,
it's a
there was a
good-
lot of scenes that I loved about it. I don't really have, I'm not bad to say.
No,
man.
I think
It's a really
it's-
good movie, especially for an action movie. Like wow.
I really enjoyed it. I think this is a staple of my Christmas movies. It is definitely a Christmas movie. Some people say it's not. I think it is because it opens up. It has Christmas music in it, Christmas songs,
There's
multiple songs
references,
in
it
it,
says ho, ho,
multiple
ho.
references. They're having a Christmas party at the
Exactly.
offices.
It all takes place on like Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve, and it goes into Christmas Day. It's Hans even says, "You want a Christmas miracle," and
Yep.
and they talk about Christmas miracles and things like that. It ends with
There was a Christmas miracle.
yeah. It ends with snow, even though it's money. The last shot, you see white stuff snowing.
True.
Christmas movies always end with snowing. It's like, oh, look, it's snowing.
True.
It ends with that, and I think it is very much again. If it wasn't Christmas, the people wouldn't have been at the offices having a party at that time. You know, and so the fact that the events are happening because it's Christmas, and that's the thing. So it's a Christmas movie. So Raven, next week,
Yeah.
should we do Die Hard 2?
Maybe, because I don't remember that movie at all.
Okay, let's do Die Hard 2 before we do
I'm
Christmas.
trying to think of another Christmas movie not set on Christmas.
I had a list.
I feel like wasn't there like a whole list?
Yeah, I did have a list of movies. Hold on.
I feel like I know a bunch and can't think of
The-
anything but Christmas movies.
oh, we have a lot of Shane Black stuff.
I was
You
gonna
got
say, isn't Lethal Weapon?
Lethal
one of
Weapon,
them?
yes, Lethal Weapon. The Long
I
Kiss.
would be down to watch
You
Lethal
wanna do
Weapon.
All right, let's do Lethal Weapon. That's a very deep movie too, in many ways. In terms of
Yeah.
character based. All right, let's do Lethal Weapon. Forget Die Hard 2. All right, next week we'll do Lethal Weapon 1, the original film where it started off with the guys being too old for this shit. Danny Glover and Mel Gibson, and they did three more
Yeah.
afterwards.
And it works out because I honestly wouldn't have seen that movie if it weren't for you, because from a very young age I refused to watch Danny Glover movies because I was sure
Of
he'd
the
beat on
Color
Miss Sailing
Purple.
in real life. I was convinced, and I just wasn't having it. I wasn't supporting that wife beater. But
Yeah.
as I got older, I matured. I understand Danny Glover is a great guy.
So if you guys haven't seen Lethal Weapon, or it's been a long time, you have
And
till
Lethal Weapon's awesome.
you have till next week to see Lethal Weapon, so you can listen in. Thank you guys for listening to our discussion about Die Hard. Do you guys like Die Hard? What are your thoughts on the film? Let us know. info@thenerdybunch.com.
Hold on, last minute suggestion. There is also Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
That's not 20 years old.
Oh, we did this.
Yes, we had this conversation.
My bad. All right.
Anyway, thank you guys for listening to this Die Hard podcast. Like I said, send us an email or find us on social media at The Nerdy Bunch. Let us know your thoughts on Die Hard. Next week we'll be watching Lethal Weapon, like we mentioned earlier. So watch that movie, and as always, keep it nerdy.